So imagine a single drug that basically acts as a master key, like unlocking treatments for half a dozen entirely different autoimmune diseases all at once.
Right, which is wild because usually in the biotechnology world, you develop one drug to cure one specific disease. It's a very strict, one-to-one ratio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today, we are looking at a company that is entirely rewriting that rule book. I mean, we're doing a deep dive into a company pulling in $1.5 billion in a single quarter.
Yeah, by treating the human immune system almost like a scalable software platform.
It's fascinating. And our sources for this deep dive are their official Q2 2026 financial results press release and their Q2 earnings call presentation from July 23rd, 2026.
It really is a massive structural shift in how the industry approaches chronic illness. The company is Argenx, by the way.
Right, Argenx. And our mission for you on this deep dive is to look past the surface level numbers. Though, I mean, the numbers are staggering.
Oh, they are.
Like a 60% year-over-year revenue growth.
Yeah.
But we want to figure out the actual mechanics of this strategy. Like, how does a biotech company transition from having one successful drug into systematically, mapping and dismantling autoimmune diseases?
Because whether you're a business strategist looking at how to scale an operation, or a healthcare professional watching the evolution of patient care.
Or just someone fascinated by where human medicine is heading over the next decade.
Exactly. This Argenex report is just a definitive blueprint.
But, to understand the science, we have to start by establishing the scoreboard. We need to look at why this specific quarterly report sent such ripples through the financial world.
Yeah, the numbers are just huge.
In the second quarter of 2026 alone, Argenex reported product net sales of $1.516 billion.
Wow. I mean, that is $1.5 billion in a single 3-month window.
Right. Let's unpack the scale of that for a second. That represents a 60% increase year over year.
So they made, what, $567 million more in Q2 2026 than they did in the exact same quarter just 1 year prior.
Yep. And even if you look at their short-term trajectory, like quarter to quarter, they still grew by 17% from Q1 to Q2 of 2026.
That's just wild for pharma.
It really is. Looking at these charts, I can't help but use a tech analogy. This feels like watching a Microsoft or a Google suddenly rolling out a brand new primary software operating system globally.
I like that analogy.
Right. This isn't the slow, organic trickle of revenue you usually see in pharma. It is a tidal wave.
The tech platform analogy is incredibly fitting, actually, because you're seeing that exact kind of aggressive, simultaneous geographic expansion.
Like where?
Well, the United States is obviously their dominant market, right? They pulled in $1.273 billion of that Q2 revenue just in the U.S.
Okay, sure.
But look at a market like Japan. They hit $102 million in Japan this quarter.
Wow.
Yeah, that is 117% year-over-year growth in that specific region. So they're effectively taking their core operating system and duplicating its success across completely different global healthcare systems.
And the profitability is scaling right alongside the revenue, too. I mean, their diluted profit per share hit $7.32.
Which is a huge jump.
Massive.
Right.
Just 12 months ago, that was $3.74. They've almost doubled their profit per share, which leaves them sitting on an absolute war chest.
Yeah, the report notes they ended the second quarter with $5.2 billion in cash and current financial assets.
$5.2 billion.
Yeah. Right. And how they're using that $5.2 billion war chest is, I think, the most revealing part of the entire financial statement, because their operating expenses are incredibly high.
High how?
Well, total operating expenses for Q2 were a flat $1 billion.
Wait, $1 billion in expenses in 3 months?
Yeah.
That sounds alarming on the surface. Like, what are they spending it on?
It does sound alarming until you look at how that billion is split. They spent $417 million on selling, general, and administrative expenses, SG&A.
Okay, so that's the necessary cost of commercializing their product globally, right?
Exactly. Paying the expanded sales teams, running the marketing, all that. But they spent significantly more, $485 million purely on research and development.
Oh, wow. So they are taking the massive cash generated by their current success and just immediately shoveling $500 million of it right back into the furnace to fund future drugs.
Yes. It is a deliberate, highly calculated reinvestment machine. They aren't just hoarding those profits to look good on a balance sheet. I mean, they're aggressively buying the future of their own pipeline.
But, to justify burning $500 million on R&D in a single quarter, you need absolute certainty that your core product, like the thing actually making the money, is unshakable.
You do.
So let's look at why they are so confident. Let's look at the medical driver behind this tidal wave of cash, their drug, VYVGuard.
Right. So VYVGuard comes in two forms. There's an intravenous version and a subcutaneous version you can inject under the skin called VYVGuard Hytrulo.
Okay.
And right now, it's primarily known for treating a condition called generalized myasthenia gravis, or GMG.
Okay, let's slow down for a second, so we can't just gloss over the medical realities here. For you listening, what exactly is GMG doing to a patient's body?
Right. So it's a severe chronic autoimmune neuromuscular disease. Essentially, your immune system goes rogue.
Goes rogue how?
It produces antibodies that attack the connection points between your nerves and your muscles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and when those connection points are destroyed, the muscles can't receive signals from the brain. It leads to debilitating muscle weakness, like patients can lose the ability to control their eyes, to walk.
That's terrifying.
It is. And in severe cases, they lose the ability to swallow or breathe.
So the presentation notes that VYVGuard has achieved the broadest label across all GMG patients. And they list these different patient categories based on their specific autoantibodies, right? Their serotypes.
Correct.
They mention anti-AChR positive, anti-MuSK positive, anti-LRP4 positive, and triple seronegative patients.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
Stop right there, because that sounds like pure medical alphabet soup. What do those letters actually mean for the person suffering from the disease?
Well, it helps to think of those letters as the specific targets the rogue antibodies are attacking. AChR is an acetylcholine receptor on the muscle itself.
Okay.
MuSK is a protein that acts like a scaffold to help organize those receptors, and LRP4 is just another protein involved in that same connection process.
Got it. So if you have GMG, your body is producing rogue antibodies that are specifically designed to attack like one of those three targets.
Exactly.
So historically, if someone came in with these symptoms, treating them wasn't just a matter of giving them a general GMG pill.
Not at all. I mean, it was a diagnostic nightmare. A neurologist had to run complex tests to figure out your specific subtype, like, are you AChR positive? Are you MuSK positive?
That sounds time-consuming.
It was. And then they had to hope the hospital formulary had a specific therapy that matched that exact target. And if you were triple seronegative, meaning your body was attacking the nerve-muscle connection, but tests couldn't find those three specific antibodies, you were often just out of luck.
But VYVGuard is now the first and only targeted treatment approved for adults across all of those serotypes.
Yes.
It literally doesn't matter which specific protein your body is attacking. How is that even biologically possible?
It's because VYVGuard doesn't target the muscle receptors at all. It targets a completely different mechanism in the immune system called FcRn.
Okay, let's explain how FcRn works, because this seems to be the engine of their entire company.
Right. Think of FcRn as a biological recycling truck for your antibodies.
A recycling truck.
Yeah. Normally, your antibodies circulate in your blood, doing their job, fighting infections. Eventually, they get pulled into cells to be degraded. But FcRn acts like a rescue mechanism. It grabs the antibodies before they're destroyed and recycles them back into the bloodstream to keep fighting.
So it just keeps them in circulation.
Right. But in an autoimmune disease like GMG, you have these rogue, damaging antibodies circulating. FcRn doesn't know they're bad, right? It just keeps rescuing them and recycling them back into the blood.
Which just prolongs the disease.
Exactly.
So what does VYVGuard actually do to the recycling truck?
It blocks it completely. VYVGuard binds to the FcRn receptor, which means the recycling trucks are all essentially parked. The rogue antibodies get pulled into the cells, they can't be rescued, and they get destroyed.
So the levels of the damaging antibodies just plummet, and the disease stops in its tracks.
You got it.
That is fascinating. So it lowers the overall levels of antibodies, including the bad ones, regardless of which specific nerve receptor they were planning to attack.
Exactly.
By clearing out that diagnostic friction for the neurologist, Argenx just makes VYVGuard the default, universal choice for the disease.
But I mean, this strategy goes way beyond GMG, doesn't it? The sources heavily lean on this phrase, a pipeline and a product. Yes, they do. Because if you think about that mechanism blocking the recycling truck to lower damaging antibodies, GMG isn't the only disease caused by rogue antibodies.
Right.
Because FcRn plays a role in dozens of different autoimmune diseases. Argenex can take this single, already approved drug and pivot to treat entirely distinct illnesses without having to invent a new molecule from scratch.
Hence, the product is the pipeline. Let's look at the roadmap they've laid out. They're moving into ocular myasthenia gravis, which obviously affects the eyes. But then they have the Alquivias study reading out in Q3 of 2026 for myositis.
Yep.
They have the Advanced Next study for a primary ITP expected in the first half of 2027, and the Unity study for Sjogren's disease in the second half of 2027. And they're even running a registrational study in Graves' disease.
And just consider how completely different those diseases are. I mean, primary ITP is a bleeding disorder where the rogue antibodies attack your blood platelets. Sjogren's disease is where the antibodies attack your body's moisture-producing glands. That leads to severe dryness in the eyes and mouth that can actually damage organs. And Graves' disease attacks the thyroid.
Completely different symptoms, completely different organs, but they're all driven by the exact same fundamental problem. Rogue antibodies being kept alive by that recycling truck.
Exactly.
And to make the delivery even easier, the presentation mentions they're planning to launch a subcutaneous auto-injector in 2027 for all approved indications.
Which is huge for quality of life.
So a patient could eventually just give themselves a quick shot at home. I mean, you have a drug that captures the entire market for its first category, is expanding into a half dozen new ones, and is getting easier to administer. That fully explains the $1.5 billion quarter.
It absolutely does. But any seasoned business strategist will tell you that a single blockbuster drug, no matter how revolutionary, is a ticking clock.
Right. Patents eventually expire.
Competitors figure out the biology and catch up, or the market simply saturates.
Which means they need a second act. If VYVGuard is their iPhone-like, the category-defining hardware that put them on the map and generated all this cash, then they need their iPad.
I like that.
They need a whole new product line built on the same successful ecosystem of immunology to prove they aren't just a one-hit wonder. And according to the sources, that iPad is an entirely new molecule called empasiprubart.
Yes. Empasiprubart is officially dubbed by Argenx as their second pipeline in a product opportunity. They're using the exact same playbook they use for VYVGuard, finding a universal choke point in the immune system, but applying it to a completely different biological target.
Okay, what's the target this time?
Empasiprubart targets something called C2, which is part of the complement system.
And what diseases are they targeting with this C2 blocker?
Well, the clinical catalysts are coming up pretty quickly. They have the registrational Impassion study for multifocal motor neuropathy, or MMN, reading out in the fourth quarter of 2026. Then, in the second half of 2027, they have the Invigorate and Emergize studies reading out for CIDP, which stands for chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy.
Okay, let's break that down for a second. Demyelinating. Does that mean the immune system is basically stripping the myelin insulation off the body's nerves? Almost like, I don't know, fraying an electrical wire.
Yeah, that is the perfect way to visualize it. Your nerves need that myelin sheath to transmit electrical signals quickly and safely.
Right.
In diseases like CIDP and MMN, the complement system, specifically driven by C2, inappropriately activates and attacks that insulation. The wires fray, the signals short out, and the patient experiences progressive weakness, loss of sensation, and eventually paralysis.
Man. So empasiprubart is designed to block that C2 activation, stopping the attack on the nerve insulation.
Exactly.
Now, I want to highlight something in the sources that really caught my eye regarding this new drug. There's a study they're running called ADAPT Forward. And in this study, they are testing empasiprubart as an add-on therapy to efgartigimod, which is VYVGuard for GMG patients.
Yeah, they are.
They are literally testing combining their two multi-billion-dollar blockbuster drugs together in one patient.
It is a massive flex of clinical confidence, honestly, and it speaks to the sheer complexity of immunology. Because for some patients with the most severe forms of disease, just blocking the recycling truck isn't enough. The inflammation is just too aggressive.
Okay, let me try a military metaphor here to see if I grasp this. If VYVGuard is working by blocking the recycling trucks, essentially cutting off the enemy supply line so they run out of antibodies, then empasiprubart is neutralizing the active frontline troops by blocking the C2 complement system that is directly attacking the tissue.
I mean, yeah.
So they're hitting the disease from two completely different biological flanks at the exact same time.
That is exactly what they're doing. By attacking the autoimmune response from two different biological angles, they're attempting to completely redefine the standard of care. Yeah, if the ADAPT Forward study is successful, the absolute best treatment for severe autoimmune disease wouldn't just be an Argenex product. It would be a combination of two Argenex products working in tandem.
It creates a closed ecosystem. You don't just leave the Apple ecosystem, right? You buy the watch to go with the phone. Here, they want to provide the complete suite of immunological defense.
Exactly.
And the presentation also notes a surprising signal in a phase 2 study called Varvara for Delayed Graft Function, or DGF. That is opening doors for them in the organ transplant setting.
But wait, why would a drug designed to stop nerve insulation from fraying be used for someone getting a kidney transplant?
Well, it shows that once you start mapping the immune system accurately, the biology overlaps in ways that surprise even the researchers.
How so?
When a patient receives a transplanted kidney, their body recognizes it as foreign tissue, right?
Right.
The immune system's complement, cascade driven again by C2, rushes in to attack the new organ. That causes severe inflammation and prevents the kidney from functioning. That's delayed graft function. Oh, I see. So by blocking C2 with impasaprubart, you calm that frontline inflammation down just enough for the body to actually accept the new organ.
Precisely. A mechanism designed for a neuropathy might just be the key to saving a transplanted kidney.
Okay, so we've moved from today's blockbuster in VYVGRT to tomorrow's pipeline with impasaprubart, which leads perfectly into how Argenx visualizes their own ultimate endgame. They have this blueprint they call Vision 2030. What does this company actually look like at the end of the decade?
Vision 2030 is highly quantified. They've set 4 rigid metrics they intend to hit over the next 4 years.
Okay, what are they?
First, they want 50,000 patients globally on their treatments. Second, they want to achieve 10 labeled indications, meaning regulatory approvals for 10 distinct diseases.
That's ambitious, yeah.
Third, they want 5 late-stage molecules actively in their pipeline. And fourth, their R&D engine aims to hit a target of submitting 1 new investigational new drug application, or IND, every single year.
A new drug entering clinical trials every year. That's wild. They expect to have 10 molecules in clinical development by the end of 2026.
They do?
I mean, they have adamanabart, which is a MuSK agonist, preparing for a registrational study in congenital myasthenic syndromes. They have ARGX 121 for IgA nephropathy. They have an anti-IL-6 molecule called ARGX 109, and then this massive list of phase 1 early-stage assets like TSP 101, ARGX 118, and ARGX 125.
And ARGX 125 is actually a first-in-class bispecific antibody.
Hold on, let me stop you right there before we completely drown in the acronyms.
Fair enough.
Because pumping out an entirely new drug every single year sounds great on a corporate slide deck, but isn't there a massive risk of quality control here? With a $5.2 billion war chest, it is very easy to get arrogant.
Oh, definitely.
How do they avoid spreading themselves too thin, just throwing money at the wall and seeing what sticks?
It is the most important question to ask when looking at a biotech scaling this fast. Because you're right, in this industry, you can easily burn billions chasing dead ends. But argenex's strategy is anchored by a philosophy they call clear biology.
Clear biology.
Yeah, they do not guess. They only advance molecules where the underlying biological mechanism of the disease is already clearly understood and where the unmet need is severe.
Okay, give me a concrete example of clear biology from the sources.
Well, the presentation specifically highlights autoimmune myositis as a quintessential argenex opportunity.
What's that?
Autoimmune myositis is a disease where the immune system causes severe chronic inflammation of the muscles, leading to profound weakness. Why is it the perfect target for them? Because it represents a multi-blockbuster potential market, the biology involving the immune system's attack on the muscle tissue is crystal clear, and crucially, there are 0 approved or late development therapies currently available for it.
So they're looking for the exact intersection of perfectly understood science and desperate patient need. That explains the specific diseases you mentioned earlier. IgA nephropathy, for instance.
Yeah.
That's a disease where rogue antibodies build up in the kidneys, eventually causing kidney failure. Clear biology, high need.
Exactly. And they're even applying that discipline to iterate on their own successes.
Meaning what?
They aren't just looking for new targets. They're developing next-generation FcRn molecules to replace VYVGRT eventually. For example, they have a molecule called ARGX 213, which is designed specifically for monthly dosing.
Oh. So instead of a patient needing weekly infusions or injections, they just take it once a month.
Yep. It constantly improves the patient experience, which creates a moat around their market position that competitors just can't cross.
Wow. So let's bring this all together. What the Q2 2026 report reveals is not just a story about a company that managed to sell $1.5 billion worth of medicine in 3 months.
No, not at all. It is the story of a perpetual motion machine. The unprecedented commercial success of a universally applicable drug like VYVGR generates billions in cash. That cash is immediately deployed to fund an aggressive, multi-pronged R&D strategy governed by clear biology.
And then that R&D creates the next generation of blockbuster drugs, like impasaprubart.
Exactly, ensuring the cash keeps flowing to fund their Vision 2030. They are systematically mapping and dismantling the human immune system one indication at a time.
It is a phenomenal blueprint for how to scale a scientific breakthrough into a global corporate powerhouse. And for you listening, whether you are analyzing the markets, studying the bleeding edge of biotechnology, or simply fascinated by how human health is evolving, you have to keep an eye on this approach.
For sure.
Because it leaves me with one final thought to mull over. If a single company, armed with a strict adherence to clear biology and a $5 billion war chest, can begin targeting the immune system with this level of precision today, what does the future of autoimmune care actually look like 10 years from now?
That's the billion-dollar question.
Are we moving toward a world where debilitating, life-altering autoimmune diseases are no longer a life sentence, but are managed as easily and routinely as taking a daily pill for high cholesterol?
It's a profound shift in perspective, and based on the sheer volume of data in this report, that reality might not be as far off as we think.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring that fascinating intersection where cutting-edge biotechnology meets brilliant business strategy, and we'll see you on the next one.